Hello, fellow hockey fans, and welcome to the very first episode of Hockey Talk. I'm Jordan Johnson. I'd like to begin by just saying I'm a little nervous. I've been contemplating this podcast for probably about the last 5 months, and I finally just bit the bullet and said, you know what, let's give it a shot. Why not? I'll be trying to do this every Wednesday at 5. You can check it out on anchor.fm/Jordan_hockey talk. Or on my YouTube channel, which I don't have a custom URL yet, but I will by next week. I'll start by telling you a little bit about what this podcast is going to be about. Essentially, it's just going to be about all things hockey. Talk a little bit about what's going on in the NHL, headlines and stats, standings, everything in between, trades and signings. And if there's anything that I miss within the NHL, don't be afraid to send me a voice message and tell me about things that maybe you want to hear about. I'll gladly talk about anything. I'll probably get into a little bit of junior hockey too, mainly the OHL, just because I'm from London, Ontario. Go Knights, go! We'll get into some different stuff. So it should be fun. We'll have a good time with it for sure. So this week, it's probably going to be a bit of a shorter episode just because the All-Star break just happened, so there hasn't been a whole lot happening in the last few days. So I'll probably just talk a little bit about the All-Star break itself, mainly the skills competition, because I did not watch any of the games. I just don't. Personal opinion, I don't really care for the All-Star games very much anymore. I just find that the competitiveness of the All-Star game is just not there really anymore. It's more, they joke around, have fun, and that's fine. Obviously, a lot of people like to watch that. Me personally, I just can't enjoy it the same way without that level of competition. So, like the sprawling goalies, like the Dominic Hasek, Patrick Waugh, constant stuff. I'm not really into that. But anyway, that's just personal. Doesn't really matter. But the skills competition this year really, really intrigued me. And that's just because of Decker and Coyne. Those women... I have had the argument with so many people about how women deserve to make the same amount as men do, and always it comes down to, well, they just can't play the same pace as the men, or it's not as physical as the men. And personally, I don't agree at all with any of that. I've watched, I don't even know how many times I've turned on a Toronto Furies game, and those women, man, I thought they were going to tear each other's head off. So if you want to tell me that they're not physical enough, I mean, they don't hit like men in men's hockey. They don't try and railroad each other. They just, they play solid, skilled hockey. And there's nothing wrong with that. They do get aggressive, because I don't know if you've ever seen some of these girls in the corner, man. They are like, I'm almost thinking they're gonna start taking each other's head off. But that's just my opinion on that. But when it says that when I get the argument that they're not skilled as men, this just put their friggin' foot in their mouth. Because how, after those two performances, can you say that they don't deserve to earn the same amount as the other guys? Like, I'm sorry, Decker beat Draisaitl by 3 solid seconds in the passing. 3 seconds, not even like a little, like a few, like a point of a second. It was 3 solid seconds she beat him by. Like, that's, in my mind, and he's one of the best passers easily in the NHL right now. How they are where they are at in the standings is beyond me, but that's something else for down the road. But and then McDavid, he's a fast guy, and Coyne was only behind him by a second. Try telling me that these women do not deserve to make the same amount. I just don't agree, and I think that just added to my point when with their performances that on the weekend there. I think, and kudos to CCM for stepping up and paying Decker. She definitely deserved that money, man. She just blew me away. Anyway, that's about all for that rant. If you have your own opinions, or or you want to add to what I said about that, please let me know. I'd love to hear about it. We'll go into the trade that happened yesterday with Toronto and LA. So the trade that happened yesterday, Jake Muzzin for Carl Grundstrom, rights to Sean Dursey, which good riddance, and first round pick for 2019. Obviously, that's a killer trade for Toronto. They needed a solid defenseman like Muzzin. Not only is he great for their penalty kill, but he's got a great shot too, really hard shot, and he kind of brings a little bit more grit to Toronto, which I feel like they're gonna need that going into the playoffs. He's gonna be a great ad. There's no doubt about it, and I think that they got him for really, it's peanuts to them. First round pick for next year, and I heard a lot of people say, "Oh, first round pick." Like, first of all, they're gonna be deep in the draft, anyways, and the draft right now, the draft class this year isn't all that great. So really, they're not missing out on a whole heck of a lot. They already have a lot of young players, so to add more young players is just kind of, I don't know. They don't need that right now. What they need solid veteran players with experience who can guide the younger guys. And Muzzin's got that. He's got playoff experience. He's got all that other stuff, and he's just a solid D-man. So I feel like this trade was a no-brainer for Toronto. It was really, there's a reason why, like, I heard rumors last week about Toronto trying to pick up Wayne Simmonds, which I don't know if they're still in that talk. I don't think so now after grabbing Jake Muzzin. It just doesn't make sense. And I didn't think it made sense last week when I heard Toronto in the talks for Wayne Simmonds. I mean, he would still be, don't get me wrong, he'd be a good ad offensively, but and he kind of has a little bit of a grit to him too, so he doesn't hurt for Toronto, who's more skill based. But I just didn't see really the overall benefit for having Wayne Simmonds. But Muzzin, there's no argument. You need a solid guy like that, and you set him up with anybody really. You pair him with anybody on Toronto, and he's gonna do well. And I think going into the playoffs again, it's gonna be something that they're gonna need. The other trade that happened yesterday is Jamie Oleksiak for fourth round pick from Pittsburgh, and I think that's a great trade for Dallas as well. Just because, why not? He's a good player. He's a solid player, in my opinion. I've always liked Oleksiak. He's been pretty. He's not overly consistent, but who says he's not going to do something there? So, and again, you're getting him for really peanuts. It's a fourth round pick. You can't really go wrong with that. Again, draft this year, not overly big. There's a few names on there that stick out, but I mean, and there might be one of those diamonds in the rough that you won't expect next season to really come out. But so there was a couple signings yesterday as well. Alex Stalock signed to a 3-year deal, I believe. 3-year deal. I think it was $2.3 million. Let me just pull up his stats here. This season he's played 14 games. He's got a 6-5 record with a .894 save percentage and a 2.91 goals against average. He's a pretty good backup goaltender, if you ask me. Like, Those are pretty good numbers. He's produced a few times for them in the past, so I mean, and he's 31, so he's going into his he's getting into his prime now. It makes sense to sign him for 3 years. It's not going to hurt them at all. So I mean, that's good. The other signing yesterday was Jordan Martinic with Carolina. His stats this season are a little low. He's played 50 games. He's got 10 goals, 3 assists. So total 13 points, and he's a -3 right now. There's still a lot of hockey left in the season, so there's a possibility that those numbers will go way up. I mean, he could hit a hot streak, gain a few points a game. So, and he's done that in the past. So I mean that there's a potential there for him. And they got him for 2 years for $4 million, so $2 million a year. I feel he's worth that. That's a decent amount for his caliber of play. So we'll go into some standings this week. Tampa still holding in the Atlantic Division. No surprise there. They're way ahead. Toronto right behind them, and then Montreal sitting in third in the Atlantic. Metropolitan Division is kind of surprising me a little bit. Washington in second, Columbus in third. Those two teams, I kind of expected them to be higher up in the standings, but I, at the beginning of the season, would not have suspected New York Islanders to be, especially after losing Tavares. A lot of people, I remember hearing them say, like, oh, well, now Islanders season shot because they lost Tavares, and I remember, I didn't think they were going to be top, but I definitely didn't think they were going to be terrible, just because they lost one player. But they actually really surprised because they're first in the Metropolitan Division, and by a little bit too, like by 3 points. They're 3 points ahead of Washington. I'm a little surprised, but good for them, man. Like, they keep playing the way they're playing. Good things for them and coming for the playoffs. And then we'll go over the Western Conference, and we go to Central Division. And I'm a Jets fan. Winnipeg Jets, woot woot, go Jets go. First place in the Central Division. They did just get off a loss though from Philly. You never really want to start off your second half of the season with a loss, so they got to bounce back quick, hopefully, and win their next one here. They got Boston next, so that'll be a tough game since they've lost 2 straight. I'm really hoping they take Boston, also because I don't like Boston. Sorry to any Boston fans, but I'm not a fan. And Nashville right behind them, and Minnesota. Actually, I'm kind of surprised Minnesota has been doing where they're at right now. I kind of half expected Colorado to still be up, but they kind of fell behind there in the later part of the first half of the season. So it'll be interesting to see if they can regain the momentum and maybe make a playoff push. Dallas sitting right behind Minnesota, I believe, with there's a little bit of a gap, 55, two game gap, but I mean, anything can happen. And then the Pacific Division, Calgary still on top. They're dominating this season, man. I've been seeing some really good performances from them. Gaudreau is having a hell of a season. Guy looks great. He's in great form this year. San Jose right behind them. Vegas, surprisingly, after slow start, man, they're gonna enter in the second half of the season third in the Pacific Division. So they're gonna make their playoff push by the looks of it, and Vancouver, who started off really strong, is starting to kind of fade. I'd like to see them kind of get back into it, though, because they've been they're kind of the beginning of the season. I didn't think that they were going to be doing as well as they have been, so it's been kind of nice to see them. And then a team that I thought was going to be doing fairly well coming to the half was Edmonton, but clearly they just been struggling. Not as bad as LA though. LA, I can see why they were getting rid of Jake Muzzin now. I think like 44 points. I mean, not in dead last, mind you. It'll be interesting to see the draft lottery this year. I think Ottawa will probably get it, but we'll see. I don't think there's much more to talk about this week. I'm a little coming off the All-Star break. Obviously, it's a little slower, so I think we'll just end off the podcast here. If you are a bit of a visual person, you can also check my podcast out on YouTube. Again, I do not have a URL yet, but I will have one hopefully by next week. If you're checking this out on YouTube and you prefer to just listen, you can just check me out on anchor.fm/Jordan_hockey talk. Anyways, that's all I have for this week. Make sure you tune in next week, Wednesday, 5 p.m. Until then, keep your head up, kid.